like to call this meeting to order. It's the City of Palm Coast City Council Business Meeting. It is Tuesday, April 17th, 2018. It is 9 a.m. Please join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Holland.
Here.
Vice Mayor Cuff.
Present.
Councilmember Nobile.
Here.
Councilmember Clufus.
Present.
Councilmember Shipley. Here. Mayor, all members are present.
Thank you. We'll now move it to public participation. Any member of the public wish to make comments on items not on the agenda, you have up to 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record, and your 3 minutes will begin.
Steve Carr, Palm Coast. Florida Park Drive with 8,600 cars per day, or 3 million cars per year, going through a residential section. The pollution, the noise, harming the residents and the children of the residential area. Why is it that way? Well, when you look at it, it's nothing other than convenience. Why? Because there are other options. The people on the east side of the canal have the Palm Coast there's the intersection of the Matanzas Wood and Old Kings Road. All these are non-residential roads. Florida Park is a residential road being used as a thoroughfare, and this thoroughfare is harming the health of the residents. Where do I get this information about it harming the health of the residents? From the World Health Organization, Environmental Protection Agency, CDC, and many universities around the world have done studies about close proximity traffic harm to people's lives. And this traffic is 60 feet from the homes. And we have now a Holland Park that has a basketball court that is just 80 feet from the road. And we're looking at 80 feet, and we're talking 3 million cars a year going by there, while the children are having heavy cardio workouts. And it's nothing other than convenience, because there are 2 other options. So Florida Park Drive is the only residential area that is being used this way. It was even encouraged by the city when the city put in turn lanes from Palm Harbor and Palm Coast Parkway to make it more convenient for drivers to use it as a thoroughfare. So the only way that's going, to me, the only way it's going to be resolved is for the city to make it inconvenient to be used as a thoroughfare. And I know y'all are looking at some of the options there, and I just want to continue to encourage you to look at the options to do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
Ray Castrovinci, I live on Florida Park. I know it's been discussed. I've lived on Florida Park since 2006, and I have seen the increase in traffic on 2000 since then. I don't know if there's any resolution to the traffic that's being used or used on that road. But before you consider to do anything on it, you're going to have to bring the speed down on the cars. I know that the police have been doing a great job, but I'll give you one more alternative to maybe slowing the cars down. Maybe you can put in rumble strips along the road. And I know there's been studies done, but if you do not live on that road, you have no idea what the speed is. What people, I'm not saying everybody speeds on that road, but a great majority do. Thank you very much.
Your comments. Next speaker.
My name is Silvia Puglisi, and I agree with the other 2 gentlemen regarding the traffic on Florida Park Drive. I also please ask you to do not forget about the beautification needed to erase the blight in that road. My real reason for today coming is not really only Florida Park Drive. It's a more serious reason, which I found out on the document for the workshop of of March 17. There was a workshop on which the document that I found is this one, stated regarding some plans for the seawalls. Actually, the document, which is called Goal Number 1 Expansion, is a strategic action plan report that came up in that date last month. On this document, it says, develop a comprehensive policy, public policy to address failing seawalls, research and provide presentation of findings for a special assessment district for saltwater canals, dredging and seawall repair. This is in the document of that workshop on that day that I took out of the agenda of, I believe was on March 27, 2018 workshop. This is the document, and that concern many of us with seawalls, especially us, the people that have spent $20,000 in each seawall to repair and redo under the city guidelines. I look for an ordinance that addresses our seawalls in the city, and I don't find a city ordinance that addresses the seawall. We are subject to compliance with our homes and maintenance and repairs of our homes and landscapes, but I don't find an ordinance that compels these owners to repair their seawalls. Now, creating a tax district, as is mentioned in this document, means that we that spend so much money in repairing our seawalls are going to be taxed as well for other people that don't care to spend on seawalls. When I bought my waterfront canal home, I knew I had to have the money saved to repair and replace my seawall. And I consider utterly unfair that a tax district, as the document reads on that workshop of last month, is planning for all of us in canal front homes, for all those people that do not care to repair their seawalls. That's the only thing I am bringing today. Also, this document
Thank you for your comments. Thank you
about the drainage.
Thank you for your
dredging as
comments.
well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next speaker.
Robin McDonald, Palm Coast. Good morning. I would like I'm requesting that the city provide to me a itemized bill for how much it costs the taxpayers of Palm Coast for the luncheon that was held 2 weeks ago at the new community center. And I would like it to be sent to me, or the city clerk has my contact information, so I would request a full and itemized list of how much the luncheon cost. And my second request is to the city attorney, if he could provide me a copy of where it says somewhere in the state of Florida law that a city is allowed to spend taxpayer money for a luncheon at the city's expense. Thank you.
Speaker.
I'm Mike Litterdale, Palm Coast. I want to back up what Celia says here, that the seawalls and the dredging, I need to at least have some sort of reassurance that people that have spent a lot of money on redoing their seawalls, maintaining their properties properly, are going to be exempt from any sort of tax to assist in anybody else who doesn't want to or can't do their seawalls. If you look at what Fort Lauderdale's done, Fort Lauderdale's actually has given homeowners a year to repair their seawalls after they've been cited, and if they don't, then the city steps up and adds that to their tax bill. I think that's a very fair approach to do it, and you're identifying the people that don't maintain their property, and the people that do maintain their property aren't punished for other people. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. I guess, Mr. Lynn, if you would just address the goal that we adopted last year about the comprehensive strategy to look at our canal areas.
Right. The canals are like any other infrastructure, whether it's streets or your water, sewer lines. Eventually, they have to be maintained. There's a couple of major maintenance items that are on the horizon, not that far out. One of them is dredging, because they do silt in. And the other one for the saltwater canals are the seawalls that people have been talking about. There needs to be a comprehensive approach to this and a fair approach. And we have it on our list to do, along with a lot of infrastructure that we've been working on. When we bring it back to you, there will be some options and some ideas to try to make it as fair as possible. Because the speakers make good points. You know, if I maintain my own seawall, I don't want to be taxed to help someone else. On the other hand, there are people who are not maintaining, they're collapsing, and then that impacts everybody else and the erosion and everything. So it is something that City Council has indicated we need to look at, and we'll take a very comprehensive look. To tell you the truth, the overall stormwater system with all the rain we had last year is really what our focus is. That's also one of your goals for us, and that's what we're focusing on right now with the stormwater infrastructure.
We are going to keep a stiff eye on that, you know, people who have been maintaining and investing dollars, you know, aren't going to have to pay for someone who's not.
Right. There's a lot of options. I'm not going to tell you what, but
Yeah.
I mean, just that statement sounds fair.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. As long as we think that.
Yep. Yeah, there's just a lot of options. You know, and we aren't the only ones to do with this. So we'll be looking at what other cities do. There's some legal implications. There's a lot of things we have to look at, but we're not ready to present anything to you at this time.
An ordinance. There is no ordinance right now on the upkeep of a seawall.
Well, this is one of those, just from a practical standpoint, as they indicated, we probably could do code enforcement, and that's a $20,000 price tag. And there's just some people who are going to say, I don't have $20,000 and can't do it. So are we going to, you know, where do you go from there? So this one is not the same as cutting grass or, you know, replacing, you know, fence panels, et cetera, which we normally do. We've got to have a fair, comprehensive approach before we start going out and expecting a number of people to come up with $20,000 for a seawall.
And please have Virginia or staff to respond to the public records request by Mr. McDonald. Yep. And Florida Park Drive will be discussed with our upcoming goals that we've identified as an area, and staff will, in the future, be bringing back more options. Okay. Agenda item number 1, our approval of the minutes for April 3rd, 2018 business meeting, April 10th, 2018 workshop. Do I entertain a motion?
Move approval. Second?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Agenda item number 2 is a proclamation, Volunteer Recognition Week. Councilmember Shipley will be presenting. I would ask everyone that's receiving this proclamation to come up to the podium.
First. This month was established as the official time to recognize and celebrate the efforts of volunteers at the local, state, and national levels. And whereas volunteers can connect with local community service experiences through hundreds of community service organizations, including FLAGLER Volunteer Services. And whereas volunteers address the most pressing challenges facing our cities, counties, and our nation, from educating students for the jobs of the 21st century and supporting veterans and military families to preserving the environment and helping communities recover from national disasters. And whereas volunteering enhances the life of volunteers, increases self-esteem and physical well-being, provides opportunities to learn new skills and abilities, and offers the chance to meet new friends and associates. And whereas nonprofits, charities, community, and faith-based groups, schools, national service programs, and volunteer centers such as Flagler Volunteer Services have joined with state and local governments to celebrate and praise volunteers who have given tirelessly and selflessly to the service of others. And whereas volunteers are vital to our future as a caring and productive nation. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the mayor and the city council of the city of Palm Coast, Florida do hereby recognize the month of April as Volunteer Month in the city of Palm Coast and encourage residents to recognize the positive impact of volunteer service in our city, to thank those who serve, and to find ways to give back to their communities. Signed the 17th day of April, 2018, Melissa Holland, Mayor.
Thank you so much. My name is Susie Gamblain, and I'm the Executive Director of Flagler Volunteer Services. And I just want to say thank you to the City of Palm Coast for always supporting volunteerism. Y'all have been wonderful. I did want to share some numbers as far as what happened with volunteerism in 2017. We had very big numbers. We had 3,910 volunteers that served in Flagler County, and they gave 206,369 hours. So tremendous, tremendous numbers. Many of those were hours related to Hurricane Irma, and actually we've had some in 2017 related to Hurricane Matthew. We had 1,132 volunteers locally, as well as those from outside our community come in and help, and they donated 20,737 hours for Hurricane Irma, and there are still volunteers working now. We just actually had a group, 50 of them, leave from the University of Delaware that were here to help residents that were affected by the storms. Additionally, volunteers help with education, public safety, health, environment, capacity building, a lot of volunteer activities related to fundraising and things like that to support capacity building for local nonprofits, and they help with social service agencies. We also have a tremendous amount of volunteers that are on a regular basis being trained to do a variety of things, including disaster prep. So we're becoming more and more prepared for the disasters that have been hitting our area. We recognize volunteers every year. We recognize all of our volunteers, but we recognize volunteers every year that did over 500 hours with the Gold Level Presidential Service Award. We have 12 that we have invited to be here today that did over 1,000 hours in this, that are City of Palm Coast residents. I just wanted to call out their names, and if they're here, have them come up and receive a Presidential Service Award. Sonia Byrne, Maureen Caulfield, I know there was quite a few who couldn't make it, Steve Garnes, Joanne Harrington, Kit Leslie, Estella Linder, Michael Moeller, Jose Nunez, Margaret Pangburn, Elena Rojas, Ken Seymour, and Barbara Scharf. I wanted to also say that those numbers that I gave out, they're huge, huge numbers, but those are the numbers that are reported to us. We know, I could probably look around the room, I could actually look at a few people, I already could tell you who, but I won't point them out right now, that I don't receive hours on. So I know people volunteer all the time, and they don't always turn their hours in. So those numbers, as huge as they are, they're just a piece of the pie. So we just want to say thank you to all the volunteers and the amazing impact they make in our city and the county.
Well, and let me just add also, those numbers also reflect a significant tax savings to our residents, yes, because those numbers actually equate to services you're providing. Otherwise, we would have to look at ways to actually provide that service. So we really want to thank you for your leadership in this organization that has done a tremendous amount to give back to this community, but adds a tremendous amount of value that's often overlooked from a governmental perspective that we really do deeply appreciate.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item number 3 is an ordinance. Mr. Reichman.
Yes, Mayor, we've got, excuse me, we have 4 ordinances this morning. They're all second readings, and they're all legislative, not quasi-judicial. Item number 3 is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, amending Chapter 29 Impact Fees, Article 2 Transportation Impact Fees, Code of Ordinances of the City of Palm Coast to adjust rates based on a comprehensive study, providing for applicability, for severability, providing for codification, for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Mayor, City Council, this is a second reading. You've had a variety of workshops and a lot of work. Periodically, well, our ordinance requires an update on our impact fees. It's been about 7 years, and all the studies, both engineering and financial, were conducted. Most of the fees are going down because of the number of infrastructure projects we have today versus what we've had in the past that qualify for impact fees. But we think this ordinance is ready to go. There haven't been any additional comments, changes, and ready for final action.
Council, any questions or discussion? Open up to the public. Any member of the public wish to make public comment on agenda item number 3, please do so at this time. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Take it back to the council. Entertain a motion.
Move approval. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Agenda item number 4, which is an ordinance. Mr. Reichman.
Mayor, Council, this is an ordinance of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, amending the city's Code of Ordinances, Chapter 15, Buildings and Building Regulations, adopting local technical amendments to the Florida Building Code, providing a fiscal impact statement, providing for applicability, severability, codification, for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Mayor, City Council, this is another second reading. This and the next item are part of our floodplain management program. Primarily, it's an update as required by both state and federal regulations that have changed. This impacts our building code, so it's consistent with new state laws. And there has been no changes since your first reading. We believe it's ready for final action, City Council.
Council, any questions or discussion? Not, I'll entertain, open up to the public. Any member of the public wish to make comment on agenda item number 4, please do so at this time. None, I'll close public comment. Take it back to this council. Entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Agenda item number 5, which is an ordinance.
Mayor, Council, this is an ordinance of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, amending the city's Unified Land Development Code. It's repealing Section 10.02, Flood Damage Protection of Chapter 10, Environmental and Cultural Resource Protection, replacing it with a new Section 10.02, Floodplain Management, to clarify intent and to reflect current development trends. This amends Section 14.02, Glossary, to add, revise, and delete definitions relating to floodplain terminology. This ordinance provides for applicability, severability, codification, conflicts, and provides an effective date.
This is a second version. I'm going to take this opportunity to also brag about our insurance rating when it comes to flood insurance. We are one of only a dozen cities in the entire United States that has a rating of a 4. Lower the better. And that has a lot to do with our flood management team that put a lot of hard work into making sure that we do a lot of outreach. We stay up to date with federal and state laws. And this ordinance does exactly that, to update our ordinance consistent with federal and state laws and best practices. There hasn't been any changes since first reading. We believe it's ready for final action.
Council, any question or comments? I'll open it to the public. Any member of the public wish to make public comment on agenda item number 5, please do so at this time. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Take it back to this council. Entertain a motion.
Move approval. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Agenda item number 6, which is an ordinance.
Yes, Mayor. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, providing for the amendment of the City of Palm Coast 2035 Comprehensive Plan, as previously amended. This is pursuant to Chapter 163 Florida statutes. This amends the infrastructure, conservation, and coastal management, intergovernmental coordination, and capital improvements elements in order to meet statutory requirements related to water supply facilities planning. This provides for conflicts, ratification of prior acts, codification, severability, and provides an effective date.
Mayor, City Council, this is another update. It's a second reading. It's been a few months since you've seen the first reading, because after first reading, we have final review by state agencies. They've had no additional comments or changes, which is not surprising because we coordinated very closely with them. This is an update that is required by state law, and we do it periodically, and we believe it's ready for final action.
Council, any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll open it up to the member of the public. Any member of the public wish to speak on agenda item number 6, please do so at this time. None, I'll close public comment, take it back to this council, entertain a motion.
Move approval. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Agenda item number 7 is a resolution initiating the conflict resolution procedures with Flagler County Board of County Commissioners for water services to Airport Commons area.
Mayor, our city attorney requested this item be placed on the agenda, so I'm going to just turn it over to him for his comments.
Mayor, Council, consistent with your direction at last week's workshop, my office, your attorneys, prepared this resolution which will fulfill the statutory requirements to allow your staff to attempt to meet with and work with Flagler County to uphold the existing contracts, written agreements that exist between Palm Coast and Flagler County. Today's action will permit, if necessary, this council thereafter to meet with and attempt to work with Flagler County Commission to ensure that the Palm Coast Utility Service Area is protected, as Flagler County previously agreed to do. This council's legal staff, working with your professional staff, has concluded that Flagler County's current efforts to directly provide utilities to a property in the city's service area, exclusive service area, violates existing written agreements. Certainly, we would hope that Flagler County would recognize this breach, but to date it is not. Today's action simply allows the city to properly take the next steps to continue to discuss and hopefully end this contract violation. I'm here to answer any questions you may have about the resolution or about where we go from here.
Council, any questions or discussion?
So do we, I know we went back to the county and kind of tried to work with the county. Was there anything resolved at all?
To our knowledge, they're still moving forward with their proposal at the staff level. So really what we're trying to do is ask City Council to get together with Board of County Commissioners and work through this, and that's what this next step is. I think it's time to, just elevate it up to your level. Make sure that you and the county commissioners are on the same page.
Any questions? If not, I'll open up to the public. Any member of the public wish to make public comment on agenda item number 7, please do so at this time.
Good morning. I'm Mr. Neilbach from Palm Coast, and I sat in on this workshop on this issue, and I agree with the council, the resolution to get this fixed, and I do believe the county is trying to screw the city. So please be very diligent in going after the county to ensure that not only in this case, but future cases, they no longer try to take advantage of the taxpayer of this city. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
Good morning, George Mayo, Palm Coast. At the county commissioners meeting yesterday, which I attended, I brought up this subject and said hopefully that the city council and the commissioners can work together for solve the agreement and come up. Some of the comments that were made were the city can, do what they want. It's really up to between the city and the developer. And I stated that it seemed like the, excuse me, the county approaching them and saying, will you provide utilities is kind of an end around. And I said, in this case, the city is really a utility provider with the water and the sewer. I said, FPL is a utility provider, are you going to just say, we'll give you electricity and throw a whole bunch of extension cords over and allow them to do that? Upon which Mr. Coffey stated, again, bringing up how we gave up concessions to Wawa in order to do that. But that's like, to me, going to a Ford dealer and saying, they're going to give me a pickup for $30,000, and the Chevy dealer said, he'll give it to me for $32,000. Well, why can't you do? You know, that's apples and oranges. But I did broach it to them, and again, they just said, well, it's between you and the developer. So I just, hopefully that something can be resolved between both of us, because again, I think if it's allowed, it's setting precedent, and some other developer could come in and say, well, we'll attach to them and whatever. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Any other council discussion or comments?
I think just to respond to the last citizen that addressed us, I find that attitude by the county very disturbing. You know, at the workshop I spoke, I thought, kind of forcefully for me. I get criticized for not saying much about how much I dislike this kind of dispute, especially when it gets escalated to this level. I've done this for 42 years as a real estate attorney, so these projects don't fall from the sky one night and the next morning you have to decide whether you're going to approve them or not approve them. And if that's the approach that the county has been taking, and I don't mean this to be a finger-pointing exercise, I don't think the city really has much choice other than to adopt this resolution and take things to the next stage. But for future reference, and I won't terrorize anybody with an awful Strother Martin impression, but what we have here is a failure to communicate, whether it's the county to this developer or landowner, whether it's the county to the city to the county, but we need to do a better job of coordinating these kinds of things in the future to make sure that the taxpayers, who are ultimately county and city taxpayers, and the ratepayers of the Palm Coast utility system are protected and their interests are considered early and thoroughly when we have something like this come up, so that we don't have to get into posturing and adopting masterfully worded resolutions, Mr. City Attorney. I've read plenty, I've written a few, but when you get to this stage, somebody somewhere has dropped the ball, and I hope we can do a better job in the future and we can resolve this without having to let our attorneys and their attorneys do their thing for months on end. So,
well said, Vice Mayor.
Having said that, well, anyway, go on. If there's any other comments, I don't want to monopolize the mic.
No, I mean, I just to add on to that, I mean, this is, in my opinion, nothing more than us following through with our contractual obligations that were adopted many years ago, and I hope, like you do, that this continues to be a way for us to collaborate and work together on future development projects that are existing in our community. So I think we've set that path forward when we were talking about Colbert, and hopefully this recognizes our approach for collaboration and working together with the county on these projects. And I look forward to a quick resolution of this matter, and I think this gives the tool and mechanism to do so. So if there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Agenda item number 8, which is a resolution approving the strategic action plan updates and additional priorities for fiscal year 2018 and 2019.
Mayor, City Council, you've had a couple, 2 or 3 workshops on this. Our strategic action plan team has met with you individually, and this is the final step. And Denise is going to walk you through discussion and then actual action on it today.
Thank you, Mr. Landon. Denise Bevan, City Administration Coordinator. So today we're going to give the results of a lengthy process through City Council evaluating our strategic action plan. So briefly, I want to go over the timeline. This started at the early part of the year, and it really talks to closing out the previous fiscal year with our end-of-year progress report, moving into the National Citizen Survey results, then on to the one-on-one City Council interviews, February through March, our annual progress report, March 13th, and then, of course, strategic action plan evaluation workshops where our City Council provided us feedback on the proposed priorities that we're going to go over today. So the upcoming slides are the results of the feedback we received when we brought the items to City Council as part of the workshops, and this is how the upcoming slides are inventoried. This really echoes what's in your packet for your Exhibit A as part of the resolution. So I'm just going to read these one by one. Evaluate opportunities to work with citizens along Florida Park Drive to improve landscaping along the roadway, item 1. Item 2, engage an external consultant to identify options through a traffic engineering study to address traffic issues on Florida Park Drive. Item 3, create a stakeholders group to create a new vision for Town Center through a strategic approach. Item 4, create a dedicated funding mechanism to support events and programs in pursuit of innovation in Town Center. Utilize stakeholders to create funding program framework. Number 5, evaluate the feasibility of requiring new construction to incorporate a committed fiber port through building code regulations. Number 6, develop a robust citizen engagement platform and ensure that cost-benefit analysis includes ongoing maintenance of that platform. Number 7, evaluate opportunities to improve public-facing, public record search capabilities. Number 8, improve communications infrastructure, phone internet service at City Hall and other city facilities to ensure continuum of services. Number 9, evaluate existing software products, maintenance costs, and technological advancement needs to ensure that long-term financial investment is acceptable or justifies an alternative product. Number 10, evaluate Town Center and other locations within the southern part of the city with the potential to incorporate a future premier multi-purpose recreation center that all generations are served. And the final is at number 11, request Florida Power and Light to provide a presentation to City Council to discuss the feasibility of underground utility retrofits and mounting of equipment on utility poles. So those are the 11 proposed priorities that you'll be considering today, and staff's here for any questions or comments that you may have regarding the overall process.
Council, any questions or comments? See none?
Ballot coming around.
Oh, get to vote. Okay. What do we got to vote?
The idea why the ballot is being passed out is we just want to make sure that we have at least 3 council members that support each one of these.
I'd like a writing utensil.
We just answer yes or no.
Yeah, it's just a check. And that way, the resolution can be amended if there are some that are not receive 3 votes.
Okay.
I had to go borrow a pen.
Got a couple of ballots today, so 2 or 3 maybe. A little time in between.
So we have 4 votes for 1 and 2, and 5 votes for 3 through 11.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Mayor, you are required to take public comment first.
I'm sorry. You are correct. Any member of the public wish to make public comment on agenda item number 8, please do so at this time. None, I'll close public comment. I'll take it back to this council, entertain a motion.
Approval?
Second?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Other business. Agenda item number 9 is an appointment. Appoint members to the Beautification and Environmental Advisory Committee.
My agenda doesn't have a 9.
Is it
This
9 or
is-
10?
I didn't hear the questions.
I'm sorry. It's item 10 on the agenda in front of me. I think maybe it's because this is the amended one. and They just got
Yeah, it's
renumbered
item 9 on
incorrectly.
the latest.
Oh, okay.
So, Mayor,
Yes, follow that. That's good.
Mayor, City Council, this is an unusual advisory committee as far as appointments because they are all have concurrent terms. There's 5 members on the committee, and their terms expire all at the same time. So there's 5 openings. You have 4 individuals who are asking to be reappointed. All 4 of those individuals have served 2 or more terms, which by your policy then requires 4 votes to reappoint them. And then you have 1, 2, 3 additional people who have applied. And so the ballot will go around, and the idea is to vote for 5. If the existing members get 4 votes, they are appointed. The other 3 new applicants get 3 votes, then they'll be appointed. So until we get 5 people with at least 4 or 3 votes. Hopefully I explained that okay. Yeah.
I would have messed it up.
You don't need to number them, just check which 5.
Yep, just check 5.
Usually I do.
Thank you.
Let Virginia do her magic.
Any initial projections? I'm just-
We have 4 votes for Mr. Beer. We have 4 votes for Ms. Foltz, 3 for Glaze, 4 for Jones, 2 for Capcar, 4 for Partolo, and 4 for Sieb.
So do we have 5 that are
We have
at
a
4?
5, yes, 5
Okay,
at 4.
So,
And the 2 that were required for 4/5 votes are there.
so can you give me those
Yep.
names, and I'll ask for, we'll open it to the public, and then we'll ask for a motion, or give whomever to list those names.
Mr. Beer, Ms. Foltz, Mr. Jones, Mr. Partolo, Mr. Sieb.
Any member of the public wish to make public comment on this agenda item, please do so at this time.
Mr. Neilbach, Palm Coast. I've been attending the workshops and the meetings of the council now for a few months. It's quite surprising that this item wasn't even on the workshop. Myself, I have no issue with it, but I just find it interesting that no one knew about it until today.
Next speaker.
Steve Carr, Palm Coast. Just a quick question. Does it take a unanimous vote for it to happen? Or if it's got 4 votes, does it happen? Or?
I'll answer at the end of your, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next speaker. Thank you. I would say the reason why it's not on the workshop is because this is business where the council determines who gets appointments.
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
true.
for discussion in a workshop, it's just an appointment.
Yeah, it's nothing staff is involved in at all. We're just kind of the conduit to get it to you.
And
It's up to you if you want to have a workshop. We've never done it before.
I'm not suggesting that, I'm just answering the question.
Yep.
It's the majority that 3 votes get the appointment. So.
Except for when it's that reappointment, then it
Yeah.
takes 4.
Okay, council, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Okay, agenda item number 10, which is discussion, shortlist executive search firms.
Mayor, City Council, this is another item that a little unusual. You're the selection team committee, and Jesse, who normally helps any selection committee through the procurement process. He's one of our procurement gurus. He's going to help you today through the results of your ranking of the 4 firms and where we go from here. So, Jesse, take it from here. I've stalled as long as I can stall, Bo, so.
Good morning, Mayor, Council. I'm Jesse Scott, Purchasing Coordinator here for Palm Coast. This morning, we're going to talk about the executive search firm requests for solutions, specifically as it relates to the scoring of the submissions that we received. What we'll do is go through the data and the scoring analysis. Then we'll cover some options that are before you. I'll open it up for any questions that you may have, and then we'll turn it over to the council for your discussion and direction.
We have a rookie at the control.
Yes, you do. On the schedule and the timeline, we'll start out with today. You'll see some changes on the dates below. Those were changed slightly as we had a little bit of a delay completing our evaluation process. So today, we're going to look at the scoring and the shortlisting of the firms. On May 9th, we'll target that date as the date for presentations. May 16th would be the date for the final ranking. May 30th would be the draft contract with the final contract for the selected firm on June 6th. With evaluations and scoring, we did advertise and release the request for solutions for the search firms to assist you, City Council, in the search, recruitment, and selection of the next city manager. The council provided input and guidance on the project timeline, as well as approved the request for solutions document that we advertised. We did receive 4 responses, and those have now been evaluated and scored by the City Council. Just wanted to review the evaluation criteria that we used. For experience and past performance, that was up to 35 points. The ability to collaborate and facilitate was up to 25 points. The ability to reach a broad target market, we identified that as 10 points. Projected cost at 10 points maximum, and innovation and creativity at 20 points maximum. The initial ranking based on the average scoring of the council's individual evaluations shows that we have the 4 submissions listed in order of their highest scoring at the top, going down the list. Developmental Associates was first, followed by Strategic Government Resources, and then Springstead Waters, and then GovHR. And with some analysis, what we did see was Developmental Associates, LLC. They received 4 out of the 5 council selections as the first or second place ranking. Strategic Government Resources, SGR, received 4 out of the 5 city council selections as the first or second place ranking. Springstead Waters received 1 out of 5 city council selections as the second place ranking. And GovHR received 1 out of 5 city council selections as the second place ranking. Normally, from our practice with staff, when we have a project like this, we would take and do a short list and bring folks in the highest ranking submissions and interview those folks to make sure that our expectations would be met and that there would be a good match for the project and for the team. In this particular case, the council will be working very closely with the submitters, with the proposers, and you're going to have some options that you will need to consider for that process. The options that are before you are, you can shortlist 2 of the more responses for the presentations for further review, or you can award to the top ranked response based on initial ranking, or you can reject all responses and start the process over. So those are the options that you have. So with that, I'll ask if you have any questions, and if you have no questions, then we'll open it up for you to discuss and provide us guidance.
Council, any questions or discussion?
I do have one on page 253 where it says conflict of interest. I know my computer kind of got messed up there. It doesn't say that I have no conflict of interest. I'm the only one not mentioned, but I don't have a conflict of interest.
No, ma'am.
Just in case you needed that information. That was
Okay, we'll actually open up to the public. Any member of the public wish to make public comment on agenda item number 10, please do so at this time. And I'll close public comment. I'll take it back to the council to discuss how they'd like to proceed. We take the recommendation of our procurement division that invite the 2 top vote getters or to present to the council, or the 3. How does the council wish to proceed?
I think if we have 4 out of 5, we probably could just pick the top 1, but if I'm not the one that picked that one, if I'm not the council member that picked that other one, then that's kind of not fair, because they might want the other presentation. But
I have to tell you, I mean, I write a lot of these proposals. I spend most of my days doing this, and it's always nice to have a presentation after you down select meaning the highest vote getters, just to see how they present, how they're going to interact with this council, and sort of, frankly, I think this council has been very specific on what they'd like to see in a search firm, and the approach that they're going to take. So in my opinion, it's a good first step to also identify how they're going to, look at our goals as we work through this process. so they have a true understanding. And I'd like to hear from them. We saw what their approach would be in writing, but I'd like to hear from them why they chose that certain approach, and also some different suggestions that they would make as we go through this process. So I don't think it hurts us to set up in a workshop to invite the top two vote getters to at least present, and then we can make a decision.
I'm good either way.
I certainly would like to see at least a couple of the top two present. And without prejudging anything, I'm the one that gave the lowest score to the one that got number one, because I found their presentation on paper to be just too analytical, too pencil and paper, too, we're going to make them tell you why they like, whatever, as opposed to two of the other applicants, which I thought had more substantive presentations. So I'm not comfortable picking the firm we're going to have to work with for months and months, and that will help us with this kind of a thing without hearing from at least two. Given the difference between the number 2 ranked firm and the number 3 ranked firm, unless there's another council member that thinks we ought to interview the top 3, which wouldn't ruin my day, but I don't think we'd be doing our job if we didn't hear from at least the top 2.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I completely concur. Motion to select the top 2 and bring them in for interview before our council.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Okay. Agenda item number 11 through 14 is the consent agenda. If any member of the public wish to make public comment on any of these items, please do so at this time.
Go back to your previous page. I'm so confused. It's okay.
I think it's-
That's how I live.
Okay, I'll close public comment, and I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Okay, we'll now move to public participation. Any member of the public wish to make public comment on agenda items not on the agenda, or on items not on the agenda, please do so at this time. Please state your name for the record, and your 3 minutes will begin. That's correct.
Good morning. Coast. Just a few questions I just need to ask the council. I'd like to address Mr. Landon. It's been over a year now, and I approached the beautification on Beltier from 100 to Royal Palm. And I want to thank you and your staff for such a wonderful job. I'm sorry we're kind of late on that, but every time I turn the corner, I just feel so great every single morning, night, and all that. So, again, thank you very much for that. Next on my agenda is has there been any development going on at Beltier and Market Street, that big empty lot there that we have? I was just curious, too, because, again, as you turn 100 and going up to Royal Palm before you get to the public shopping center, we got this beautiful, this ugly-looking big lot there, and all the developments around our city is being developed. But with Massachusetts, I read the Observer, I read the what do you call, the St. Augustine newspaper, and I always look at developments, and I look at, Port Orange, and everything is going on, development over in Port Orange, and I was just curious about our town center. Sometimes you say that, well, no one wants to live in a house, build a house in the town center, but sometimes if you build one, they normally say they all will come. We just had, as you know, down near Margaritaville, they just had over 1,000 people went to, look at the new mosaic homes that they're being built over that area there. So, again, I always like to look at a development. I like our city. I like how it's being run. We still have a lot of growing pains, but like anything else, we would get through it. You know, I've been here since 2005, and I refuse to leave under any circumstances. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
John Netz, Palm Coast resident. The issue of seawalls. Palm Coast is a little unusual in that the seawalls are privately owned. Many cities that have similar saltwater canals, the seawalls are city property. But in this case, you already have a mechanism in place, I think, to deal with the issue. I agree with Ms. Puglisi 100%. If a homeowner has built the seawall and has budgeted for repairs of the seawall, that homeowner should certainly be allowed to make the repair without any additional cost to the city. If you look at your code enforcement procedures, if a property is in violation, and if the city deems it of significant importance, the city can step in, make the repairs, and then bill the homeowner. You could do something very similar here. If it's judged that a seawall needs repair or replacement, offer the option to the homeowner, and if they are unwilling or unable, then the city does it, and then put a lien on the property and spread the acquisition or the return of the investment over the next 20 years on the tax bill. Fair, equitable, and it works out, but it does protect the saltwater canals that are not just a boater's paradise. It's part of our stormwater system and a very essential component thereof. Offer that as a suggestion.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
George Mayo, Palm Coast. Good morning again. Recently here, if anybody hasn't read, the governor has vetoed the toilet-to-tap water bill, which would allow wastewater, treated water, to be put down. I believe this is directly into the aquifer. I know the city in its plans for our treatment plant was going to just disperse it on top of the ground and allow it to percolate down into the aquifer. I had spoken to Richard on this, but I'm wondering if this veto will change our plans in any way. And on doing that, will it incur any extra expenses? Will it change what we have to do about that? Also, I'm just curious, the plan was to put a gas station over at Starbucks on 100 in Belterre. I'm wondering, that hasn't come to fruition, if that's still in the plans or that's out. I want to thank the city for finally putting up do not turn left signs at the entrance to Starbucks. That was sorely needed, and people are still doing it, but to much less extent. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Jim, if you can update on any development that was brought up.
This is why I always say, until you actually see establishments open and finish, you never can count on it. The ICI did not actually close on their property in the town center, so don't see that happening. But a lot of other residential projects are looking at the town center area right now. You're going to get an update on some of our efforts to encourage that at your workshop next week, so stay tuned. I haven't heard anything at the corner market, but market in Belterre. But once again, they're kicking tires around the whole area. The convenience store gas station at the corner of Belterre and State Road 100 also, it's my understanding, did not close on that property. So they're looking for a new business there next to the Aldi's, which will happen. It's a hard corner. It will come. I think did I get everything that was?
For the first topic, yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing development is happening again after many years. Yep. That's a positive thing.
Very positive.
So as far as Mr. Nett's comments, we'll take that into consideration when we move forward with our comprehensive strategy.
Yes.
As far as the treatment plant and the governor's veto, have we discussed that?
All our plans were based on the past laws, so it's not going to change anything we're doing at this time. This was a new idea or a new concept, so our reuse program and recharge programs are all still acceptable.
Great. Okay, thank you all for your comments. Discussion by City Council of matters not on the agenda. I am going to start with Vice Mayor Cuff.
Actually, just a quick one thing, a follow-up to the issue about the recharge and so forth. And I think I had mentioned this to you, Jim, and you said you were aware of it. And to Brian, the city of Ocala appears to have a very innovative, well, maybe it's not that innovative, but it struck me that way, approach to basically turning some of their recharge areas on some unused public land into what looks like it'd be a very nice park, basically using the retention ponds to be water features in a park with jogging trails and a few other, nothing super duper high tech, but just a nice open space that takes advantage of the water views and so on. And maybe that's something we can consider as we need bigger areas for retention from the new wastewater plant and so on.
I like it.
Yeah.
Good. Is that all?
That's it.
I have nothing, Mayor.
Yeah.
I have nothing to add at this time.
I just had one statement, just a question. Where are we with the issue of vacant lots and maintenance of those vacant lots? I've gotten a few complaints from residents, and they've sent me a few pictures I will forward on of the view they're having to look at of some unmaintained vacant lots that I think when we're coming up to another fire season or hurricane season, it becomes quite concerning.
This was actually one of the projects for one of our summer interns. You know, every year we look for those kind of projects for a summer intern to come in and give ideas. I believe they're going to be working with Denise. Is that true? Yeah. So we've actually put together kind of a scope for an intern to come in this summer and then present something to City Council.
Was that not strategic? Okay.
Yeah, for this year, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, it's on our work plan. We were just trying to, and it's one of those that has very defined kind of start and stop. So it's a great one of those projects for an intern.
Okay. Discussion by City Attorney of matters not on the agenda.
Nothing further, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Discussion by City Manager of matters not on the agenda.
Yes, actually a couple of things. First of all, we have Food Truck Tuesday this evening, starting at 5. That's very popular. I'm in charge of the weather and guaranteed to be beautiful, so hopefully people can come out. Secondly, there have been some conversations about reuse and everything. I don't know if you can tell the difference when you flush your toilet, probably not. But there is a big difference from our standpoint because wastewater treatment plant number 2 is online. So we are actually sending some of our wastewater to the new plant. We will have a grand opening, ribbon cutting. It probably won't be nearly as exciting as a community center, but if you are in the wastewater business, a new sewer plant is really a big deal. And it's a big deal for the community because it will allow us to continue to support growth for many, many years. So this is really a very exciting project, and we are planning that tentatively before your evening meeting in May, no? June, okay, wrong. So the first Tuesday in June, so keep that in mind. We'll do the late afternoon, early evening, and then you'll come to a city council meeting kind of concept. And then speaking of sewer, this is a horrible lead into this. Let's say utility. I can't help myself. You know, we recognize employees each year that reach certain milestones and service awards, 5, 10, 15. And we have an individual that has been our kind of the limelight of our utility for many, many years, part of inventing Palm Coast. And he's not going to be here when we celebrate all the others. So we have some people that you can probably see were I don't know, working to surprise him today. So if Mr. Adams would please approach join me at the podium. Mayor, if you would join. certificate. Why don't the people in the back join us too? Do you know some of these people, Richard?
I've known a few of them for a little while, yes.
I'm going to let you introduce some of the special guests here. But, this is supposed to tell me how many years.
40.
I was going to guess
There's a
either
pin.
40 or 45. Richard's one of those that makes me feel old sometimes, just saying how long he's been now. It's been very exciting.
Handle compliments.
And we have a utility that is recognized state and nationally. Almost every month you'll hear another national award that we receive. And it's very exciting. It's all under Richard's leadership for many, many years. So, Richard, with that, congratulations for a job well done.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a surprise, and I don't like surprises, but thank you anyway. I appreciate the recognition, but all those folks back there are all part of it as well. Many of them have been here many, many years. I could not do any of it without their help, and when I was first given the opportunity to become the manager, I had to make sure that they were all coming with me because I couldn't do it without them. So thank you.
I'd just like to add, really, truly, Richard, we are very proud in this city, as should every single resident that lives here, for your leadership in providing a first-class utility, clean water to our residents, very comprehensive drainage system, stormwater system, and you throughout have advanced us technology-wise, as far as ensuring that we have the capacity to meet the growth and the demand. And we are truly proud to have you as your utility director, and we could not do this without you. So thank you.
And as you can tell by the slideshow, Richard was a good-looking young man at one time.
Sludgeal age.
Very fortunate to have Mr. Adams as part of our team for so many years. So, Mayor, that is all I had.
At high end.
Move we adjourn.